Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth.
Governor Newsom at the Convention Center in downtown LA Saturday, rallying supporters to get out the vote and pass Prop 50, the ballot measure before voters in the special election. Prop 50 asks voters whether or not to redraw the state's current nonpartisan congressional map to favor Democrats and eliminate up to 5 GOP House seats. Newsom and state Democrats scrambled to get the issue on the ballot. Show Prop 50 has strong support, hovering near 60%. Democrats rolled out their all-star lineup Saturday afternoon. Senator Padilla, Senator Schiff, Mayor Bass, and an appearance by former Vice President Kamala Harris. Harris says a yes vote on Prop 50 sends a strong message to President Trump.
It is about reminding folks that we refuse to kneel at the foot of a tyrant.
It seems Tuesday's elections yielded more than just political races that needed to be commented on. I've long told you that the reason Democrats have lost so much ground politically is that they look at Congress as a DC-based social club. You pay your dues at the state level, and then afterwards you go to the clubhouse on Capitol Hill. Of course, aspiring members to the club can't pay the dues themselves. The dues can only be paid by donors. And as for the voters, well, that's the game now, isn't it? The entire point of getting all that money is to put together a political machine that will deceive, cajole, and coerce all of those rubes into voting for you for nothing. Something else I pointed out is that even if you're still stupid enough to believe that Democrats are the opposition party, you still can't deny that for generations now, Democratic politicians have been totally useless at pushing legislation to fight back against the GOP's legal offensives. All of these laws that the Republicans keep putting on the books, why is it that the Democrats seem to be completely and thoroughly helpless to do anything about it? Forget about stopping them. They can't even undo this legislation once they get into power. How come that keeps happening? Think about it. Literally every single piece of legislation and legal pushback against the white right that you can think of had to be done at the state level through ballot initiatives. None of them got done through a Democratic legislature, much less Congress. The people had to hold a plebiscite to get things done. In Florida, it was a ballot initiative that put an end to the Jim Crow policy of using felony convictions as a way to justify taking black citizens' right to vote away. Keep in mind, this is in blood-red Florida, a right-wing toilet if there ever was one, the home of Ron DeSantis. And yet Florida voters overwhelmingly voted for a measure that they knew would make it harder for Republicans to get elected. So what does that tell you about the Republican politicians in Florida? That's the real sentiment of the electorate there, but there's no Democratic Party initiative to capitalize on it. The emergency manager law that the GOP passed in Michigan was rejected through a ballot initiative by the voters, but Democrats allowed the GOP to bring it back piecemeal through the legislature. And even the abortion referendums had to be done at the state level. A number of GOP states had ballot initiatives on that, and they passed in virtually all of them. So people at the grassroots level have had to do the job that Democratic politicians have refused to do. And the problem isn't that the Democrats can't do it. The problem is that the Democrats have long been practicing a cynical political strategy. They need to let the Republicans trample on their base in order to coerce or otherwise compel those voters to go to the polls for nothing. Democrats never defend the policies that their voters want because to do that would increase the pressure that the base has been putting on them for policies that they don't want to do. And this extends to the orange man too. No matter what Democrats may say on camera, the truth is they love him because when the base gets in the Democrats' faces with demands, they always point to Trump and say, look at what he's doing. Isn't that outrageous? That's what's important. We got to do something about that. To them, Donald Trump is an effective get-out-the-vote machine. And best of all, they don't have to actually promise anything. And even when you point out the Democrats' failures, they just point to Trump and say, well, isn't he far worse? Either that or you need to vote for the Democrats anyway because that's how you stick it to the white right. Allowing these white right-wing politicians to do all this mess is not an accident. This is a key part of the DNC political strategy. People see the white right pushing laws that target black citizens, and then Democrats feel that they don't have to worry about people making demands anymore because, after all, look at what those Republicans are doing. Except when it comes to black voters, they don't even go that far. They have never and will never say that they're going to undo or roll back or get rid of those Republican policies. They just say, vote for us or next time it'll be worse. Understand that the white right's performative extremism serves a very important and crucial function for this political duopoly. I've been saying since forever that Democrats have been sitting on their hands and letting Republicans pass whatever legislation they want to target black citizens. I've also said that if Democrats actually were representatives of their constituents, then they would be using their offices to politically retaliate by attacking the GOP's voters in Democratic states. A lot of the shills and plants and operatives in the comment sections and making videos, they say, well, Democrats can't do that because, well, reasons. Well, don't look now, but on Tuesday, California voters passed Proposition 50, which allows the Democrats to make big changes to the state's congressional districts. And Democrats made it clear this will turn Republicans from a political minority to basically politically irrelevant in the state. And this didn't come from the people, it came from the California political machine itself. Now, if you actually have a critical eye, you understand that California's political leaders sent a message to the people with this move. When it comes to the people's rights, well, they have to fend for themselves. But when it comes to the California politicians' power, that has to be protected at all costs. And why did the California Democrats feel the need to take such a radical step? Because over in Texas, the Republican-controlled legislature did the same thing, ramrodding through a measure to gerrymander the state's congressional districts in anticipation of the 2026 midterms. The Republicans know that the mood of the voters is already souring on the orange man, and that next year it's going to be taken out on them. Midterm elections almost always go against whoever the incumbent president is, and if Democrats get back in Congress next year, you can count the seconds before they file impeachment charges against Trump, and they'll block his asinine little policy stunts because Congress has the power of the purse, and there will be hearings and congressional committees galore to put the orange man's administration officials on trial in the press. The MAGA revenge tour will officially be over, along with whatever political momentum the GOP thinks to have. So you have GOP extremists out here, which is basically all of them at this point, who have decided they're going to wage open war on the political process itself and just declare that they're in charge, that they cannot be voted out of office, and that's that. Now, Democrats have seen Republicans attacking their base for decades now and done absolutely nothing about it anywhere in the country. But now that Republicans are taking aim at the Democrats' ability to get elected, now they want to do something and retaliate and make the GOP voters pay a price for their party's actions. So at long last, we finally found the one thing that Democratic politicians think is important enough to retaliate over: themselves. And as you saw, this effort was cheered on by the likes of Karen Bass, Kamala Harris, and Gavin Newsom because he's getting ready to announce that he intends to run for president in 2028, and this is his coming out party. Now, don't get me wrong, I get a chuckle out of watching one half of the anti-black political establishment gnashing their rotten, gnarled teeth at all this, and the Republicans have no one to blame for this but themselves. The admitted policy of the GOP for the last 15 years has been, we don't care about policy. We just want to do whatever we think will drive the left crazy, even if it hurts us. Well, as we saw with those statewide abortion referendums, the white right didn't drive the left crazy, they just drove them to the polls. White insecurity, white fragility is what drives them to keep doing these self-destructive acts. They'll commit political suicide if it gives them one last chance to feel like they're in charge, or to give the middle finger to people that they don't like. So we recognize the white right is deranged, and their blatant and shameless expressions of white belligerence are hurting them. But they're not the only ones. Gavin Newsom personally worked to stop the Freedmen's Bureau from coming to pass in California, and he had all those boot-licking, buck-dancing Sambos in the state legislature helping him do it. And now they want us to celebrate that they're going to redraw the maps so that they can ensure their political offices in perpetuity? The only way that that would be a good thing is if they said that they were going to enact policies to finally benefit us, and that they would enact policies to retaliate against the Republicans for all of their performative extremism. Have you heard anything from these California politicians even remotely close to that? If the only thing you get out of Proposition 50 is to see the Republicans grinding their teeth for a day or two, that isn't enough. This is why I tell you not to fall for their mind games. Yes, scaring you to the polls is the Democrats' favorite trick. But I also warn you that there's another tactic that they've used that's equally effective, telling you that you can finally give the middle finger back to the white right by voting for whatever the Democrats want this election cycle. We saw that in 2020. Black voters were scared of Trump, so they voted for Biden, who did nothing for us, but he did a lot for the cops. A number of those statewide referendums were about punching back at the white right and how they overreached with all of their performative extremism. And while that's all well and good, it means nothing if the issues of our money and our rights are not being addressed. And nothing the Democrats have done or even proposed addresses that. In fact, when Newsom and the California Democrats had it before them to actually do something substantive, they instead did everything they could to destroy it. Now, predictably, the white right is going to what they see as their last ditch, the only real card they have to play, which is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court is about to make a decision, whether it's January or June, we don't know, but it's going to do away with race-based gerrymandering. California is loaded with race-based gerrymandering. It's unconstitutional. Justice Roberts said you don't end discrimination by using discrimination, and many of the congressional districts in America are based on race criteria, which makes no sense nowadays. And it's literally explicitly racist. That's our cause of argument. It's very timely because the Supreme Court's ruling on this, and there's a whole lot of other cases that are percolating up from all over the country. It's kind of exciting. So there is a decent chance that we're going to find these lines that were just drawn up in 4 days in Sacramento out the window.
The go-to talking point is that it's going to be racially biased. That's what they're going to use as the basis for all of their objections, because they see that as being just the flimsy rationale to say I'm white and I say so. Democrats have been allowing Republicans to run this place since the 1990s at least, instead of making it a point to shut this down through both legislation and putting the right judges on the bench. Republicans recognized that the demographics of the country were skewing against them, so Mitch McConnell prioritized stuffing the federal bench with operatives from the Federalist Society, individuals who were certified political extremists who took a vow to ignore the law and simply operate based on their own perverted political ideology. But the question is, why didn't the Democrats take measures in the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, or the early aughts to stop them? It was obvious what the Republicans were moving to do, but the Democrats didn't do anything about it, the same way that they haven't done any policies that have been helpful to their own voters. The Democrats allowed it to get to this point because they didn't really care about the federal judiciary, mainly because you don't get your money for being a judge. You get it through the favors you can dole out through policy, and the courts don't make policy. So as the Democrats saw it, they were keeping their eye on the big picture, and the big picture is whatever lines their own pockets and enables them to keep their parking space on Capitol Hill. But this also proves that the white right is politically cornered. They're betting all their chips on the Supreme Court because that's the only thing that they actually have a hold on reliably. It just goes to show that the white right's entire policy and judicial scheme has a single point of failure and could easily be broken. But Democrats have never devoted their time to that. It's the same reason affirmative action was deliberately written to advantage white women, over 50% of the white population, but Democrats allowed the lie to be told that black people were somehow getting something they didn't deserve. Both political parties are signatories to the same scam. Spitting in the face of the white right is fine by me, but my problem is that this isn't being done to benefit us. This is about Democratic politicians trying to secure their own position. Well, I, for one, am not about to celebrate that until we finally see them trying to secure our position first. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Carl Miller, Michael McMillan, Wali Bilal, Sa, and Elisa Boutte. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.